Hello, this is Carl Hicks, and today I have a critical question for your consideration. What will your firm look like in 2025? Now, I know that may seem like a long time away, but think back to 2015. That wasn't that far back. 5 short years that moved with lightning speed. Today, I'd like to entertain a conversation about your firm's future. As Yogi Berra said, the future ain't what it used to be. One of the things that we always like to encourage our clients to consider is to look at the conceptual growth curve of a firm and try to determine which stage of growth your overall business is in. Is it a startup? Is it in rapid growth? Is it in maturing? Or perhaps is it at a strategic crossroads where you could continue staying where you are, or maybe you could spike up a little bit and increase, or perhaps it might decrease somewhat. Now, when you break down the different products you have or the different income streams you have, you might find yourself at different points on this growth curve. But it's important, we think, that you know which stage of growth your overall business is in, because that matters as to what that 2025 will look like. How will you respond to these two strategic questions? First, is your firm on the right course for sustainable, profitable growth? And secondly, will this level of growth meet your expectations by the year 2025? Here's some observations for your consideration. First, your firm's default future is somewhat predictable. That is, if you keep doing what you've been doing, probably you'll keep getting similar results. Could be an increase, could be a slight decrease, but it's somewhat predictable. But your firm's desirable future is not clear at all, unless you have stated some goals that you want to achieve. For example, if your default future is going to allow 3 to 5% growth each year and you're satisfied with that, that's fine. But if your desirable future requires, say, doubling every 3 years, then that means you're going to have to increase about 26% a year for 3 years in order to double your revenue or double the number of talented employees you have, whatever factor you're looking at. Now, all firms have both leading and lagging performance indicators that determine its future. So, for example, in terms of a sales organization, the orders taken or the applications received are leading indicators. The lagging indicator, of course, is the money collected when the sale is made, or in the case of an insurance company, when a policy is delivered and paid for. We look at both leading and lagging performance indicators to get a sense of what the firm's future might look like. We know, for example, that based on the presence of existing leading indicators, it is sometimes possible to predict what your firm's range of lagging indicators will be in the future. Remember, the lagging indicator is the positive realization of income. The leading indicators are usually the activities that lead up to the lagging indicators. But interestingly enough, we also know that based on the absence of existing leading indicators, it is always possible to predict exactly what your firm's lagging indicators will not be in the future. You miss 100% of the shots you do not attempt. Our discussion today is centered around your desirable future. Do you have a vision of what you would like that future to be? And we just arbitrarily picked 5 years out, that's 2025, for a starting point. If our overall objective is to have sustainable, profitable growth over a period of time, then there are four key elements that we need to consider to ensure that we have sustainable, profitable growth. I'll briefly mention all four right now, but then we'll go into a little bit more detail. First is the strategy. What is your strategy that will get you to whatever that level of sustainable, profitable growth is that you desire? So the strategy then is the focal point on the goals and objectives that you're going to pursue in order to reach your overall arching goal for your company. The structure is really the vehicle that's going to get you where you want to go. This is your business model, if you will. The staffing represents the drivers. These are the individuals, the people who will work in that business model pursuing those strategic initiatives that you have set up. And then finally, we have to have some systems. I like to think of it as like a global positioning system in our business. So it kind of keeps track of how well we're doing and where we are. So let's review this a little bit. Strategy. So what is our compelling strategy for achieving sustainable, profitable growth? This question is critical for you and your team to focus on. How do we grow to get there? Is another critical question. We know we could grow organically, and we know we can grow by acquisition, or we might want to choose both of those strategies. Why is choosing a strategy important to each of you? How excited are you about growing organically, or by acquisition, or by both? Or are you satisfied with your level of default performance that will occur? And then lastly, under the strategy category, what is your time frame to reach your destination? We can look at the structure, which always follows strategy, and that simply is what business model do we need as our vehicle to help us achieve our strategy and then our ultimate objective? What resources will we need, human, financial, and otherwise? And then how do we organize, manage, operate, and administer all of those resources? And how do we establish and maintain alignment of efforts? Now, in a clean sheet design, where we don't have a business model already in existence, we might be able to design a business model, a vehicle that will really propel us toward our end goal. Most of us are already in an organization, and we have structure and we have ways of doing things. And some of these ways are helpful. Some might have become bureaucratic. Some might not be helpful at all. But the activities that occur require a staffing focus. So who will be the drivers of our strategy? Are they people already in our firm, or are these talents that we have to go out and find? What skill sets will we need now and in the future? And how do we go about finding and developing these talented individuals? These are all critical questions that teams have to explore when they're thinking about their future. And lastly, systems. What do we have in place that will help us stay on course? I used a reference earlier to a GPS system. But we typically have policies and procedures and protocols and systems that can guide us on our journey. How sophisticated are they? How data-driven are they? How predictive are they? And do we have an alignment of our mindsets within our senior team that will allow us to quickly adjust our course if needed? All four of these concepts I just mentioned, the strategy, the structure, staffing, and systems, are critical if we're going to keep our focus on sustainable, profitable growth. What we try to do with our clients and prospective clients is to facilitate an experience where we generate a discussion that all the members of the senior team can participate in and start getting a picture of where we want to be in, say, 2025. We need to build a foundation of clarity around where each of you individually and collectively want to be in 2025. It's impossible to go forward if we have the senior team pulling in different directions. We all need to be thinking and moving in the same direction. Second step would be to facilitate an objective assessment of where your firm is now and where it is heading. What's been your rate of growth for the last 5 years? What's your most profitable product or service? What's the age of your key players? How many of them are reaching their peak or at their peak or thinking about retirement? This assessment must be objective. We must put on our hat, our leadership hat for the whole company, and think about where our strengths are, where the opportunities are to take advantage of things in the marketplace we've not taken advantage of, where our shortcomings might be, and then what are the threats that are out there, the typical SWOT analysis. So once we have some clarity around where we're going and where we are now, we help facilitate the preparation of a success roadmap. And it's 5 years long, it's 3 years long, it's 1 year long, it's 3 months long, it's 1 month long. It's what are we going to do each week, what are we going to do each day. It builds up, but we start with the end in mind. We want to work for the future from the future. We don't want to build upon the past, because we're going to end up, if we always build on what we've done, we're going to end up with what we've always have gotten. Let's think much broadly. It's the concept of the moonshot. When President Kennedy said he wanted to send someone to the moon and return them safely within the decade, no one had ever done that before. No one even knew how to do it. But when all the engineers got together, guess where they started? They started with, okay, we're on the moon. How do we get that person and maybe the equipment off of the moon and back into the spaceship? And then how do we get the spaceship back to Earth? But wait a second, how did we get the spaceship up there? And how do we get the men from the spaceship to the moon? So they started with the end in mind and kept backing up. We did not have, for instance, heat-resistant metals that would allow us to re-enter the atmosphere without the spaceship burning up. So composite materials were developed. We had a lot of innovation come out of the opportunity to get a man safely on the moon and return them, but we'd never done it before. So that success roadmap looks at, okay, we can't keep looking at the past, we've got to look at the future. Then once we have this roadmap in hand, I think it's very helpful to be very deliberate and intentional about your journey ahead. It's not something we're going to dream about, it's something we've got to actually implement and do. So if you'd like some more information about how the Growth Group helps other clients create a desirable future, please contact me, Carl Hicks, at the Growth Group. My phone number is 240-351-4897. I personally answer my own phone. I would be happy to discuss our concept of how we help firms grow and to listen for what your interests might be and what your goals might be for 2025. Thank you for your time and listening to our presentation this morning. Thank you.